Let's quickly talk about how Jerry Falwell and Paul Weyrich got together and what they were able to accomplish. And then lastly, we want to talk about Ronald Reagan.
Sure. Well, and there was a famous meeting that takes place in June of 1979 in the Holiday Inn in Lynchburg, Virginia. Lynchburg, of course, was Jerry Falwell's hometown. And again, I've read through a lot of these archival materials, and Paul Weyrich had already been talking about a moral majority of Americans, and it was lowercase m, moral majority. In other words, he hadn't capitalized those letters. And so as during the course of that conversation in the Holiday Inn in Lynchburg, Paul Weyrich just kind of mentioned that, it talked about a moral majority of Americans, and Falwell almost immediately picked up on that phrase. And he said, that's what we'll call this movement. We'll call it moral majority. So the two of them worked very, very closely together.
To what end?
Well, to what end immediately was the election of Ronald Reagan. And let's remember who Ronald Reagan was running against in 1980.
Who was he running against?
Against a Southern Baptist Sunday school teacher. Jerry Falwell and others, including Billy Graham, by the way, and we can talk about Graham also, decided for whatever reason. And to be honest, I'm still a little mystified by this.
Now, Jerry Falwell not only was animated by the fact that he had one of those segregated private academies, but Jerry Falwell was also motivated by his views about the civil rights movement.
Oh, yeah.
Is that also correct?
Yeah, no, he called civil rights civil wrongs. He made all sorts of nasty comments about the civil rights movement. And
when you say Jerry Falwell repented, what did he do exactly? I'm not challenging his statement.
Yeah, I'd be hard pressed to say that it changed his politics.
Right. Did it change his trajectory?
It may have. I don't see any of anything.
I mean, in your book, you talk about a sermon that Jerry Falwell preached close to the time of Bloody Sunday.
Yeah. Oh, yes. And this is this is his most famous sermon. It's called "Of Ministers and Marches," where he's really criticizing Martin Luther King, and it was the day of the march from Selma to Montgomery. That is not Bloody Sunday, which was 2 Sundays before, but the day that they finally were able to launch the successful march to Montgomery. And he criticized it. He said ministers should be in the business of soul winning rather than social reform. Now, again, the reason that sermon is so famous is because Falwell, utterly flipped when he on that issue, when he became part of, or when he organized Moral Majority.